GM, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is Friday, 27th of December. Let's get straight into the analysis. And as we can see, Bitcoin pulling back today. It did start on a green day. And when I looked at the chart this morning, it looked like we were getting a bit of a bounce and potentially we might be coming up to test a little bit higher towards the 102,000 level that I have spoken about over the last few streams, but we seem to be breaking down. Is it a fact that we've already seen this move play out? So are we actually a little bit more like this and we're going to come off into the end of December as opposed to coming off into the start of January? I'm not too sure yet. I still think my default outlook here is that we will rally into the end of the month, closing the year on a decent close, and then we might see some downside in the first half of January, probably retesting these lows again, potentially having a wick lower down to test this sort of area here down at around sort of 85 to 86,000 and then starting to push back up again, creating a bit of a trap scenario. That is my default outlook currently for Bitcoin. Still, I'm not going to move away from that unless obviously we start to see data to suggest otherwise. Just looking at the liquidation heat map here, when it wants to load, obviously this will tell us where traders have their liquidation prices. And these are obviously areas that market makers usually like to target. So, I mean, look at that. We came up, we targeted liquidity around sort of 97,000 up to 97,500. A lot of liquidations were built up there. We've taken those out. It now looks like we're going to run this down potentially to just under sort of 95,000 towards 94,500. And we will see if the market reacts from there and we finally get a bit more of a bounce that I have been expecting. And just going on to the weekly as well, just to see where our slightly longer term liquidations are. We've still got a lot around 100,000. So I'm thinking, do we target these? Do we take out this, get a bounce to just above 100,000, potentially up to around 102 to 104,000 before rolling over again? That is still my default scenario before we come down and we take out any lows, but we can see liquidations are also starting to build up. Below last week's low, so potentially we do run down to 90,000. And I really think we're likely just to see a bit of a cool off period, a bit of a choppy range, a choppy consolidation starting to form into early next year. People that are overly bullish or overly bearish are likely to get punished over the next few weeks as Bitcoin chops and consolidates and shakes people out before pushing on higher, likely into late January. Obviously, the Trump inauguration takes place at the end of January, so that is the sort of time frame that I'm thinking about for Bitcoin to get back to all-time highs. And look, it's less than a month away. This is, in my opinion, not going to be a long, drawn-out consolidation like we saw throughout the best part of last year. I do think that Bitcoin is just taking a bit of a breather here before going higher. Just noticed I'm not plugged in on the laptop, so let's just fix that. There we go. Okay, don't want this to die on me. So just going to our other chart then. Obviously, I had said this is the area I'm looking to accumulate more Bitcoin. This for me is good value down here. Anything between 85 and 92,000 I think will represent a good buy opportunity for later on this year. So nothing's really changed there. Obviously, whilst we hold these trend lines, this obviously the most important one is coming in as a trend line connecting the highs from the last bull market. We've now sort of seen this trend line come into play during this bull run. I am expecting us to actually hold above this. Potentially we see a wick or two lower, but I am expecting us to hold above this going into the end of January, and then for us likely to see all-time highs being retested in late January, maybe February of next year after Trump comes in. That is my current outlook on Bitcoin. Just looking at Ethereum then, we had said Ethereum has a trend line connecting the highs from the last bull run to the highs from this bull run. Obviously, it's now made new all-time highs, but this trend line is still relevant as for us really to be bullish on Ethereum, we need to see this trend line being broken out convincingly. We need to get above 4,000, 4,100 is really the level here on Ethereum to break for us to go bullish. And therefore, I do think Ethereum is in a good buying opportunity here. Anything below sort of really 3,500, I think is decent value. I've put on my zone to accumulate Ethereum here in terms of being this yellow box with orders all the way down really to 2,800. Below 2,800, I will start to get a little bit nervous and potentially open to the idea that the bull run and it is maybe over, certainly for Ethereum. If we do start to trade below that level, I think this level will be extremely strong support on Ethereum. Also think buyers will be looking to step in on this ascending trend line. They'll also be looking to step in back around this 3,100 area. So you've kind of got 3,100, 3,000 and 2,800 as major support areas, and combined in terms of a support zone, that would be the area that I expect Ethereum to hold going into January of 2025, going into its most bullish quarter, its most bullish month. We know that Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin in Q1. Bitcoin normally outperforms Ethereum throughout other quarters, especially Q4. So we've seen Bitcoin hit all-time highs. We'd expect there to be around about a 3-month lag on Ethereum hitting its all-time highs this market. And I really do think that Q1 will be a massive month for Ethereum. So I'm still sticking with my Ethereum longs, looking to add longs around 3,100, 3,000 and 2,800 on Ethereum. And Solana obviously pulling back again. So as long as Solana continues to hold this descending trend line, which is obviously in play from the previous bull market, then I do like Solana here as a long as well. I think anything around this box is good value. We might come all the way down and test some of these ascending trend lines on Solana, but I'm not expecting Solana to see further downside from there. Obviously, this would coincide with Ethereum coming down towards that 3,000 area. If Solana did come down to 169, 168, that would also probably coincide with Bitcoin coming around 90,000 or just below. So everything is starting to line up for me around these areas, and these are big levels that if we're on a bull run, these markets absolutely have to hold. Pepe as well still looks to be holding its previous all-time high. And I said if Pepe does dip below this, I mean, I'm already very long on Pepe. I think this is a great area to go long on Pepe around the previous all-time high. But any dips below that, I think will be really good value. And in that case, I will probably look to add to my own Pepe positions in terms of spot, in terms of leverage longs, anything down to this 618, I think would be a fantastic entry for Pepe. And look, if Ethereum gets all the way down to 2,800, potentially Pepe comes all the way down to its 1,100 area. I mean, this would be an absolute gift for me heading into 2025, the most bullish year in the 4-year cycle for altcoins. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't change. The fact that Bitcoin is well above its previous all-time highs, that is just going to lead the way for the rest of this market to all trend higher next year. So no major concerns. Taking a very quick look then at the dollar. Obviously, the dollar just consolidating around its highs at the moment, still looking fairly bullish here. So I still expect the dollar to make its way to one of its Fibonacci levels above current price and likely find a bit of resistance there. And if it is going to reject, probably reject from one of those levels. But for now, obviously, I still believe that crypto can push up with a strong dollar. It doesn't have to be a complete inverse correlation all the time. And obviously, there are reasons for the dollar being strong, i.e., obviously, Trump coming in and looking to impose tariffs on other nations. That's obviously going to help with the dollar's strength. Stock markets are pulling back today, so this could be a reason that we're seeing some weakness in the crypto market. Obviously, we know that the stock market and the crypto market are highly correlated, and we can see that quite an aggressive sell-off over the last 4 hours on the S&P and also the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq now sort of coming down, and looks like if we just do a Fibonacci from the previous week to the current low, it's come down and it is currently testing its zero point 0.5, so it's basically at its midpoint of that sell-off, back to the midpoint of this range that it seems to be forming. So we'd want it ideally to get back above there. That would also be back above the 382 from the previous swing low to swing high, November, the late November swing low to the December swing high. So obviously the zero point 0.5 for that entire range is also coming in at 21,200. So potentially we come all the way down there, and we look to sort of tag that 0 0.5 level. Obviously, there's some confidence in support there. So that would be a good area for a higher low on the stock markets if we're going to see the stock markets carry on bullish into the new year. So let's obviously monitor stocks, see where the stock markets go. I do think that Bitcoin will largely be led, given the high correlation, will largely be led by what stock markets decide to do. So really, we want to see the stock market start to show some strength and to make its way back to all-time highs to give us a bullish crypto market going into early next year. So keep an eye on the Nasdaq and the S&P for sure. Obviously, just finishing off again with Bitcoin then. So in terms of a summary, like I say, Bitcoin looks like it now wants to potentially come down and retest this descending trend line once again. And obviously the lows from the previous swing low round at around about sort of 92 to 92,500. Potentially we do get one more flush before Bitcoin then tries to attack some of these higher levels. Like I say, for me, the path is still intact. I am still expecting Bitcoin to have another go higher before flushing lower, but it could be that this bounce has already happened and actually we are a little bit more ahead of schedule, and we're going to see us retest these lows sooner rather than later before the end of this month, and potentially that sets us up for some chop going into January. But that's still what I'm expecting. Whether the high is in or not, then we'll just have to see how price develops over the next few days. Obviously, the final thing to actually mention is Bitcoin dominance as well. So Bitcoin dominance consolidating here. It's really a bit of a coin toss now. Do we go higher or do we start to roll over? Obviously, if Bitcoin does drop, I'd expect this probably to move up higher. Normally, when the crypto market de-risks and Bitcoin falls, we see the altcoins fall faster. Bitcoin dominance therefore usually takes a spike. But if Bitcoin does start to grind lower, and we also see Bitcoin dominance going lower, that means altcoins could actually see a decent bounce. We've actually got, as we can see here, Pepe currently up today, whilst Bitcoin is down and a couple of the other majors are down. Obviously, Ethereum down less than Bitcoin. So a little bit of relative strength in the altcoins. Let's see, do we get a bit of a mini alt season going into early January as Bitcoin cools off? We'll have to obviously take it day by day. So right now, things are a little bit unclear. We should get some more clarity at the end of this week with the weekly close. Obviously, the yearly close and the monthly close are coming up early next week. So some big closes to take place over the next few days. I think it's probably a good idea to be a little bit defensive with your trading and positioning over the next few days. I'm trying to hold a little bit back for early January just to see whether the markets do come down a little bit more or whether they do push on. If they push on, then I've got a lot of exposure. If they do want to come down some more, I want to have a little bit on the sideline just to be able to be prepared for any dips that do take place. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, I'll be back again, same time, same place tomorrow. Apologies, the stream is a little bit later today, but obviously Christmas scheduling, it's all going on over here right now. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you all on the next one. GM, GM, GM.